Let's find your inner sexy geek. Today we talk with cosplayer and pole performer Nora IvyEyes. Welcome to the Heroes Forge podcast, where we help millennial geeks, gamers, and cosplayers find their inner hero, or in this case, your inner sexy beast. I am Troy Bushido, and I'm trying to find my inner sexy badass today. And for that, we're all trying to be inner sexy badasses. Personally, I'm trying to do it without becoming a fuckboy, so I need expert help. And that's why I brought in the most badass sexy person I know in this field, Nora IvyEyes on Instagram. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, Troy. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my god, it's been a little bit while since we had a podcast discussion together. We did like first month of COVID, I think.
I think so. It was I think that was like the first time we actually met face to face. Was we did like a COVID cosplay and fitness podcast together, a live stream together. Because I think we had just been like ships in the nights for a long time at conventions, and like we had so many mutuals, and we would just like barely miss each other.
Exactly.
Which we have so many like common interests and stuff.
Exactly. By the way, your cosplays have all been awesome. We're always like quick crossing. We're like, how you doing, Nora? Quick hug. All right, I'll see you in the con. See you next con. And it's just like been that way like 3-4 times in a row.
If I see you, I'll see you at the bar or not at all. You know, that's like kind of how it goes, is I'm hanging out at the bar in the hotel to see who I missed that day.
You know, that's kind of how it goes. You know what? Ironically, I find you always on the con floor, and then either I am too tipsy or too caught up in my own thing to find you actually at the bar. And it's always that way.
It's so hard at cons. Like, I always tell people, I'll try to find you, but I cannot commit to anything.
I can't guarantee the jack shit over there. Which, by the way, as I said the words jack shit, I'm gonna put content warning on today's episode because we gonna get filthy today.
We're gonna get a little filthy. I feel like we're gonna get into it. We're gonna talk about it, and it's good to be a little filthy sometimes. So but it's not, if it's not your cup of tea and it's not your style, totally fair too.
That's fine. I have about 5 other episodes. Editor Troy popping iCard into an episode. Editor Troy, one thing, side note, for any artists out there who would love to do a fan art or a VTuber model, Editor Troy is a nerdy cat boy.
Aww. Oh, and real life Troy isn't?
Not always. Sometimes. I maybe depends on the con. Most of the time in anime cons, cat boy, cat bro, I like to sometimes call him depending on what I'm wearing that day. Cat bro. Like, okay, anime magic. Last weekend had cat bro. I was at a rave for like the first time that's the first time I raved in like. I raved at anime magic, and then before that I haven't raved in months. A year.
Troy, I haven't raved in about 85 years. Like with these 32-year-old bones, you want me to rave? Good for you, man. That's awesome.
My 38-year-old body was cooked for days, and I'm still somewhat feeling it. But I had a Majin Vegeta black tank top on, and my Catboy ears, and I'm like, all right, Catboy's coming out.
I love it. I think that's so fun.
So it's like, yeah, we're gonna talk about crazy shiz. I don't have to curse them. I don't have to censor myself. We're gonna talk about that crazy shit today.
We're gonna talk about crazy shit. And see, if you got Catboy, Troy, that's your sex appeal right there. See, you're sexy without being a fuckboy. I think it's sexy. If that's what you want it to be. Is your goal to be sexy?
It's a funny thing. Wow, we're gonna be probably talking about full disclosure stuff. No filter. I am my nature's a switch. So a lot of time the Catboy comes out in like a weird start sub flip dom when you least expect it kind of. You know what? It's like an adult alley cat version of that. What's that dude's name? Lady and the Tramp. Is that dude's named Tramp? I think.
I think he's just the tramp. Because she's the lady.
She's the lady. So the tramp is by accident. It's almost like the Tramp, where it's like, yeah, he's got like that Lando Calrissian smoothness about him, but he's still a cat. So it's like he still has that gentleness about him.
But it does sound like through this character, there's some avenue of sexual expression there, yeah?
Sort of. For the sheer fact
That's
of
great.
like,
That's awesome.
wow, it's like you're interviewing me, and everyone's gonna find out more about me than
I hit you with the Uno reverse.
You
Hit
know
you with the
what?
Uno reverse. That's what I do. I'm a podcast host too. Gotcha.
I was gonna get to that later. But
I'm jumping the gun. I'm jumping the gun. You're right.
It's all good. This is why we do this, and it's funny. If you want to, God, I'm gonna say role reversal. If we're gonna flip roles today, by all means, this is a fun episode to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of times, like I think it was yesterday or a day before, I put the "What's my type?" question box, and nearly everybody got it right, or it was like, oh yeah, no filter, big titty goth girl, and I'm like, oh God, I'm a major simp for some lady D mommy energy, like MAMI energy. I am a total fucking simp for that. So that's where kind
I mean, aren't we all though?
it depends. You're either you're either simping for mommy or you are mommy. And I smell
exactly.
MANI, yeah, mommy.
There's no in between.
Oh yeah, right, exactly. And we're just talking about what we're gonna be aimed for today, and we haven't even gotten to the topics yet.
In there.
So we'll double back for one moment. For those of you who don't know who this, I got to point the right direction, who the sexy beast over here is, Nora, tell me a little bit about yourself, the TLDR, and we'll get into a little bit more of the details and the origin story of your heroic journey in a bit. But if we don't know, allow you to introduce yourself or reintroduce yourself. I was trying to do a Jay-Z line, I botched it. Let's go.
Oh, it's fine. You're doing great. Hey, shh, you're beautiful. Well, hello. My name is Nora Jane. Huge nerd, obviously that's why we're friends and that's why I'm happy to be here. Huge video gamer, been a video gamer basically all my life. I started cosplaying in 2008, grandma, and I still do it today. I love it so much. It's just become such a big part of my personality in a way that I explore myself. And I've been a pole dancer since 2016.
All right, we're bringing that fire. Oh, wow. So let me ask you this. What came first? So I take it cosplay came first, then pole?
Yeah, so around 2008, between 2010, that was kind of when the quote pole fitness phenomenon was just kind of starting to get its feet wet. So I didn't even know that it existed at that time. My only context for pole dancing was strip clubs. And so definitely, but I remember I've always just loved going, my first convention was Anime Central in 2008. And I did a Sayuki Reload group and I was Gojo.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and it was, I remember I was probably 18 at the time. I remember feeling like, am I too old to be doing this? Because this was before even cosplay was at the level it is today. Because if you're old like me, the early 2000s, 2010s con was so different. Cosplay was not what it was today. It's so cool to see this beautiful creature it's morphed into with nerd culture being more normalized and stuff. So so cosplay came first. I definitely fell into my nerdy identity before my pole dance identity, I guess, so to speak.
What do you think that nerdy identity back in the days was as sexy, or did the pole contribute to it?
Oh, I remember really liking cosplay because I was able to dress in a way that you can't just it's not totally accepted to go out on the street like that, but at a convention it's okay. And I remember I used to be very conservative. One of my first cosplays was Wonder Woman, and I remember I was I gotta make sure both my cheeks are covered. I just was so which is so funny, Troy. Probably now you see how I am on the internet, and it's but in 2010, 11, 12, I was just I feel really beautiful and powerful, but I felt like I was showing a lot of skin. But it was a way for me to kind of explore I only cosplayed characters that I had a strong connection to at that time. And so Wonder Woman was a big one for that because I love Wonder Woman. And this was classic Wonder Woman, before New 52, it was Golden Age Wonder Woman.
That JLA cheek,
That JLA, yes, because the Justice League Unlimited was I fucking love Justice League Unlimited. Don't get me started.
Yes.
And I remember just you can't just be dressed like Wonder Woman on the street, but in a convention I could do it in a safe space and feel sexy and also feel powerful. Because for me, sexuality and my powerfulness, I guess, for lack of a better word, or my self-empowerment are kind of one and the same.
Awesome.
And so I realized I felt sexy when I felt strong. And so I did like Wonder Woman a lot, and then Batgirl, you know, a lot of these like, you know, Black Canary, like a lot of these women that just punch people.
Yes. Cheeks and fists.
Yes, and now I'm just like ass out, tits out. Like,
so you don't need the cosplays to be cheeks out, fists out, and tits out too.
I know. I guess it's all out. It's all out there. I know, and I love it.
There you go.
But yeah,
go.
Yeah, that's kind of how cosplay started.
Let me side tangent for a second. If you were a JLU fangirl, like from back in the day, Justice League Unlimited, what do you think is the better ship then? Diana Bruce or Diana Clark? Because Diana Clark is 52.
Diana Bruce all the way. I will ship them. I will go down with this ship till the day I die. It is just, I love those characters so much, and I love that they never actually get together. And I'm sad that we haven't had like a any more exploration of that relationship outside of Justice League Unlimited, because it's so interesting.
Right. Okay. So let me do like a NCAA tournament. So obviously, you're Diana Bruce. Would you ship Diana Bruce over Selena Bruce?
Yeah, I think I would. And I love Selena Bruce. But I feel like Selena and Bruce enable each other's bad habits. And there's a little bit, and that's why it's so sexy, right?
Yes.
Is because they like, and that's why I love Catwoman, because she's a femme fatale and she like knows how hot she is.
She wrote the book practically.
Oh my God, you want to look for like Michelle Pfeiffer, like yes. Don't get me started. But I think there's something very interesting in telling a story of, in Bruce's words, a relationship between a goddess Amazon princess and a rich kid with issues.
You know what? And I almost want to argue you, based on what you said, it's actually the literal opposite in JLU of meaning Diana and Bruce bring out their best qualities, while Selena Bruce brings out the worst, which is what makes the Selena Bruce relationship so on again, off again, and obviously more endearing to read. But
it's a very sexy relationship because of the drama.
Exactly.
And so I'd be interested to see what's the drama between Diana and Bruce, you know? What's that like?
I think it would be almost too perfect is what I think the problem is. It'd be almost harder to write for, because it's like,
I know.
Oh wait, that's almost like a conventional relationship. That's almost the shit Donna Troy almost got into.
And like, I bet it would get dicey, because Bruce is gonna steal that fucking lasso of truth. Oh, yeah. Like, he's just gonna put that on his little bat belt, and Diana's gonna be like, "What the shit, Bruce?"
You know how many fucking like DC items Bruce has klept and stole over the years?
That son of a bitch.
Rings, Black Lantern rings. He's probably used a lasso once or twice. Superman gave him kryptonite.
You know what I love? A billionaire with kleptomania that just punches people without due process.
Oh god, yes.
No, I love all that, and I would be very interested for writers to explore a romance arc between Diana and Bruce, and I also love, because we see so much of Diana pursuing Bruce. Yeah. We don't really see, when we see like a tall, muscular woman in media, she's often depicted in queer relationships, which I think is awesome, and I think there is such a lack of queer representation. Yes. But I also like seeing more masked women be attracted to cis het guys too. I think that's interesting, because I think there's an interesting conversation on like gender and sexuality there, of like, why is it okay for a strong woman to have sex with another woman, but a strong woman can't have sex with a man? Why don't we ever show that? Why don't we ever show women pursuing men? I just think that there's a lot of opportunity for like good storytelling and interesting like character arcs there that it's not a DC podcast, it's not Justice League podcast, or it's not Justice League podcast.
We're talking sexy shit, and that comes with it. The dynamics
talking about Amazonian sex.
Yes, please.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, wow, sorry, that's the cat ears coming out. But with that said, it's like, we're not only talking about sexiness and sexuality and mask femme energies, because that's a real question of like, okay, mask energy on a cis female Diana, mask energy on cis male Bruce. It's like, who flips femme first? And when? And why?
Yeah. Or if they don't, like, what's that relationship look like?
What's that clash gonna look like?
But I remember just really loving that we saw Diana pursue Bruce, and he was like, Kevin Conroy just, no. Like, but he also did have feelings for her. He was just very closed off, because, it's Batman. He's a rich kid with issues.
Yes.
So, yeah, like, I love it.
Why don't you let people in? Because I'm Batman.
Oh my god, because my parents were murdered. And it's like, oh yeah, I knew that. I have seen that intro 16 times.
Oh god, you gotta imagine what kind of like stepmommy issues Damien would have if Diana actually got him. Like you have mommy Talia and stepmommy Diana and their subsequent clans.
Oh, well, I'll tell you this much. If he had a stepmommy like Diana, Damien wouldn't be fucking acting up so much.
Oh, that's true.
Little shit.
Oh my lord, yeah, Diana would keep that boy in line.
She'd be like, what the fuck did she say to me? And just punch his wall down.
Right.
Not that Talia wouldn't, but there's a difference between a woman who can literally level a city.
Exactly. Like, we know Talia is capable as well, but she's more like savvy, ninja, leader capable, while Diana just takes the most direct approach.
Again, she's a femme fatale. He's got a type.
Oh god, he does. Oh god, he does.
Let me die. I could therapize Bruce. You know, men will literally become Batman before they go to therapy. What can I say?
God, we need to part 2 this. We got part 2 this episode.
There's so much.
We haven't even gotten into the rest of your history yet. We're already.
Let's get into my history. Let's talk about my trauma. I'm ready.
Oh wow. Okay. So we obviously saw what came together. We knew that kind of the nerd culture kind of came together. Was it harder to get into that subculture, or at least find yourself within that subculture back in 2008 when geek culture wasn't as popular? Was that more challenging? Did you feel like you had like have 2 separate lives, like Nora on the surface, Nora the geek, stuff like that?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because there wasn't Instagram in 2008. So I remember having like a DeviantArt and trying to like share my cosplay. And like I can still remember like the big Chicago cosplayers at the time that were like big on DeviantArt, you know. And at the time, you know, I was doing very simple things at the time. Like I think every femme cosplayer starts out with an Amazon corset cosplay of one of the Gotham City Sirens. It's like a rite of passage, you know. But I remember being really embarrassed about being a geek, and when I went to college, I like really tried to suppress that side of me, and I was like very depressed. I like wouldn't leave my house. I played Skyrim for like 16 hours straight.
Oh my god, you're not the only one. You too?
Oh my god. Yeah, oh yeah, Skyrim took me to a whole nother plane of existence. But I was using it as escapism, which isn't healthy either.
Same. I literally like lived in Skyrim. Like I ended up quitting a job because I was suppressing a lot. I was not only suppressing my abilities, but I was suppressing my skill sets. I got out of fitness. I got out of the fitness industry. For one thing, it was just a little bit tougher for me to operate back then, pre-social media. Because it's hard to get my personality out face to face and have it be sellable for a commodity like personal training. It was just tough. So I got out of it. I thought I was going to be in the medical industry, so I was an office admin for a home health office. If you think that has nothing to do with me, if you think I was going to drive myself crazy in that place, I did. Hence why I ended up quitting. Because the worst part was my mom was the head of marketing in that office, and it was ruining my relationship with her. And I'm like, that's the last time I'm working for my mom. Quit
no, never
job,
do it.
And then
good for you.
Thanks, but you know what the bad part is? I ended up in Arkham City and Skyrim for hours on end. Take your pick.
Oh man, when that escapism hits, it hits hard. And when I was like in college, I like just was so I had like this war of personalities where I was like trying to be this cool girl, and I was like smoking cigarettes and like drinking whiskey straight. Like I was so stupid. And then I was like, no. I like comic books, video games, and I like fruity, sweet drinks. I'm gonna stop pretending to be this person.
I'm so proud of you because you hit that early. I hit that so late in life. I hit that in my early 30s. Okay, and I don't want to make this podcast about me, but everything you just said, I did too. But I did from 30 to 35.
Oh, that's so late in life. Yeah.
From 27. I'll take that back. From like 20. No. Okay. I gotta recalibrate the timeline. God. Okay. What did Miguel O'Hara call it? The canon event. My canon event started in 2010, where I tried to be that cool dude that masked all his nerdy shit. So from 2010 up until I was like 35. So that's 15 years of suppressed shit, and that was parties, house parties, drinking. A lot of drinking.
I was like, I don't like people. What am I doing here?
A lot of
What am I
drinking.
doing in this house?
Right? Okay, so in 2010, me, my cousin, and 3-4 other friends all rented a house in Schaumburg. For those of you outside the Chicago area, it's the bougie West Burb. We have 2 bougie West Burbs, Naperville and Schaumburg. I picked one of them. And we rented a 4-bedroom house that all we did was partying.
Yeah.
We lived there for a year and just partied. And just drank.
That sounds kind of awesome, actually.
It was for what it was. I was just suppressing my personality. It was to the point where, like, even my 30s, people are like, people didn't know about my nerd personality. People didn't know about it. They just knew me as T-Roy. T stand for tequila. Not Troy, T-Roy.
Oh, damn. You know it's bad when they give you a liquor-based nickname.
Right?
That's when you know you're partying too much.
Oh, God. And we
Oh
went
my
to
God.
those friends at the time, we went to, like, a restaurant in the burbs called Fat Rosie's, which comped
Fat
you.
Rosie's. Oh, that's amazing.
Have you been there before?
No, I just love that name so much.
Okay, so God, side tangent again. It was an American restaurateur went to Mexico and took their Mexican cuisine and all their tequila and brought it back to the burbs, and there's a taco and tequila bar that literally comps you shot for shot.
That sounds like the greatest place in the world.
And the worst at the same time. So it's like,
Yeah.
you'll buy a shot, and of course that's a pretty penny, but I don't know where they get their fucking liquor from. They'll then bring another round of a different type of tequila. It's like, try this, it's on the house. This is so-and-so from so-and-so. Boom, you're
Wow.
drunk even more, probably buying another shot. They just
And
match
they're
you.
like, come on, Tequila Troy, what's the holdup?
Yeah, 8 shots
They
later.
were squeezing you. They were squeezing you for all your money.
Oh yeah, they were. Between the food and 4 shots of tequila, I mean, they were missing the other 4. They got us. But you know, that's the thing.
amazing.
It's like, going back to your point, it does feel like for many years we have this party cool person we're trying to create.
Yeah.
And the nerd persona that's just like, let me out, like that.
Right. I remember I used to hide that I cosplay. Even like I pretty much became more open, I think, with like sharing my cosplay about the time I started sharing pole, because the amount of love, because a lot of geeks are pole dancers like that. You know, it's a big Venn diagram, a lot of crossover, because as I'm sure we'll get into later, the thing that attracted me about pole is that it kind of attracts the outcasts. And that's what's like really cool about it too. But yeah, and I going back to the geeky thing, I really kind of am grateful for like this big, like there was like the superhero movie takeover.
Yep.
And I really feel like that normalized so much of geek culture and like made cosplay bigger, because cosplay now was not what it was like 15 years ago. It was so small, and like the cosplays, like you didn't see like big Eva phone builds like you do now. You didn't see LEDs incorporated. I never saw it. And if you did, it was like, oh, that's that one person from that one thing on DeviantArt. Like they were famous.
Yeah, they were DeviantArt famous. I had a guest previously here, Starfall Cosplay, who also talked about what cons were like in the 2010s. And I'll ask you the same questions. What were the two, other than cosplay, let's say point of entry or barrier of entry, what were other big differences you saw in the con scene back in 2010 compared to now in 2023 at the time of this recording?
Yeah, like I said, it was just like so much smaller. The level of build in the cosplays was not as extravagant as it is today, and that was okay. You know, we didn't really need that, because it just felt like there was so many more weirdos, and like, I mean that in like a good way. Like it just felt like this safe space. And I remember I felt like I could just totally take the mask off for the first time at cons, because you could just have like a weird one off the cuff, like random interaction where you're screaming at someone across the show floor because you're both in the same like cosplay from the same show or whatever. Yes. And like that hasn't changed. And that's what's really cool, is that it's still got that like big chaotic energy that I feel like a lot of geeks have. And to be able to just express that and have it reciprocated back to you was just such a cool feeling. And I'm like, I always tell my non-cosplay friends, I mean, you can come to a con with me, but I was like, convention Nora is like way different and way more extroverted than like out of convention Nora.
Yes.
And like cosplay is a big part of that too. I don't go to conventions unless I'm cosplaying. Like I love them, but like the love for me is cosplaying and sharing with other cosplayers.
There you go. And that's, I definitely get that energy. I definitely understand that. A lot of times, I used to jokingly call that the pro wrestler energy, where the most successful pro wrestlers in that, and I know it's almost a separate niche. Pro wrestling is also geek culture, but they always say
I can see that.
They say in the history of pro wrestling, the most successful wrestlers were simply themselves cranked up to an 11.
Yeah,
So
because
like,
they're performers
yeah,
too.
yeah.
Professional wrestlers, like there's so much. Oh, there's so much skill in what those like
Oh yeah.
WWE guys do and the girls too. I recently like I was watching some like women's WWE clips. I'm so sorry. I know nothing
No,
about it, but
let's go. Go
I don't
go.
know what the name of their organization is, but it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Like it was like they are selling it. They've got the big sparkly outfits, which whenever I see a sparkly outfit, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I want to watch this. And
Yes.
like the girls typically seem to wear like you know the sexy sparkly things, which I just love sexy feminine things. But I didn't expect it to be so funny. Like they're such performers and entertainers, and I feel like, you know, if we all went to drama camp, we're all like a branch on the same tree.
Essentially, yes. Like the most successful wrestlers in history either had a little bit of performer experience, like acting classes or something like that,
Yeah.
or they were allowed to be a version of themselves maxed out. So like
Yeah.
one of the most famous wrestlers, for example, Stone Cold Steve Austin. He
Hey,
always
I don't even know who that is.
There you go. And here's how he does describe himself. Steve Austin's a man. Stone Cold's when the lights, camera, and action show up. They're the same guy. The Stone Cold and the Steve Austin is just when the showtime hits.
Yeah.
The Rock would always describe himself as Dwayne Johnson cranked up to 11.
Yeah, no, I absolutely get that. That's kind of how I feel when I'm in cosplay because I am this person. I just usually don't. You know, you kind of turn it down a little bit when you're out and about in like life and,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
going to restaurants and all that.
It's
But like
I don't want to scare you.
it's kind of but like icons, you like scare people and then you give out this energy and it's like just thrown right back at you. It's beautiful and it's just cool because like so much has changed over and also conventions now huge, way huge. And like back in '08, like ASIN was still gigantic. But it's just the way that convention culture has like just gotten so normalized is just so fucking cool.
Yes.
But the energy that's been a part of it has always kind of felt the same to me, just in different formats, and that's always been really awesome.
Exactly. That's always been the constant. Like like you'll know a good convention when you walk in and energy matches. There's a lot of times where the energy of the people and the energy of the culture will actually make up for a below average con. So, and for example, for example, the one thing I remember was right before COVID was Wizard World 2019, and this was before they got bought out by Fan Expo. It was a mediocre con with great people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because it was kind of like ASUN Light, because that's at the same venue.
Yeah, exactly. Same venue, same after party locations.
Yeah.
I remember when my
If
friend,
it ain't broke.
don't fix it. I remember
Yeah.
we like at that bar area, we took that bar area over. We had to be somewhat quiet because we didn't want to disturb the upstairs hotel residents. But at the same time, it's like we were all just drinking there. We were just having a great time. My friend had a double lap dance by a what's the character's name from Ash? An Ash cosplayer from
Evil Dead.
Evil Dead. I was gonna say Walking.
Yeah.
Ash from Evil Dead cosplayer. Chris, shout out to you, bruh. Also being my friend, she was lap danced by an Ash from Evil Dead cosplayer alongside a Joker cosplayer.
You know, and that's beautiful.
Yeah, that was crazy shit. So
There's just so much fun because you wouldn't say that outside of the context of a convention. That's why there's
No.
so much fun. Yeah.
no, it's funny because like
Like, where else can you get a lap dance from Ash from Evil Dead?
And the funniest part is, and it's going back to the point where like, I'm not entirely sure. I cannot speak for my boy, but I'm not entirely sure he would be a male stripper in the course of Magic and Mike. Like, I don't know if the Magic and Mike troupe would recruit guys like us. But at that con,
You're
that star.
everyone's into it. Everyone's like, hell yeah, you know.
And don't get me wrong, Chris is a decent looking dude. Chris is a good looking dude. But, you know, what stereotypical meathead male stripper looks like compared to what we looked like, only at the con. Only at the con were we that star.
Well, you were too good for that strip club then.
Oh, yeah. Don't stroke my ego about that, jeez.
Yeah.
With that said, it's like, oh god, we could talk about like history cons, con culture all day. It's so funny and it's so fun. What was the last con you were at, and what con do you plan on popping into next?
So last con was C2E2 23, and I think my next one will probably be 24 C2E2.
Nice.
Just because cons are expensive and I love them and I wish I could go to more, but you know, cosplay is an expensive hobby. Pole dance is an expensive hobby, so I kind of I'm gonna see. Maybe I'll try to pop into ASEN. I still love that con. I'm getting kind of old for it though, but I like to just go check it out and like just breathe the experience.
How do you think I
and
felt
I'm
at
hoping,
Magic?
yeah, and I'm hoping Dragon Con in the near future. Fingers crossed, though.
We're about to talk about
Fingers
expensive
crossed.
cons. Woo!
Yeah, that would be like, yeah.
That's Disney World bucket list. Do it once and done kind of con for me.
Right, exactly. But I want to experience it because Dragon Con's got a reputation for a reason.
Yeah, oh yeah, they do. Shout out to the people going to Dragon Con or that.
Yeah.
It was either last weekend or this weekend. I'm not sure which. Shout out to the Dragon Conners. Hope you survived.
Hydrate, babies, and eat some pizza.
You'd be surprised how replenishing a pizza is at a con. You know, I know.
Oh my God, it's like the gift of life.
Right? And I know this brand came from the world of fitness and stuff, but like you'd be surprised how nourishing a pizza is when you're at a con because it's just
because you're so hungover and dehydrated.
You're trying to rehydrate, no matter if it's from just sweating, walking, drinking, whatever. And then on top of that, the amount of steps you take, you're probably taking at least 15,000 to 20,000 steps per day.
Yeah.
Calories are being burned. So it's like...
Oh, yeah. You know, if you're in a corset, you know, if you are wearing anything that's restrictive, if you're in heels, wigs, all of that, like, that takes a physical toll on you.
Yes, it does.
Hydrate.
Yes.
Get those electrolytes. Eat that fucking pizza. Loosen up that corset and eat some goddamn pizza, everyone.
I was about to ask you advice for the youngins. I think you just shot it. Any other advice you'd give a young cosplayer going into the cons from a seasoned veteran?
A seasoned veteran? Well, you know, I think, you know, be careful with what you wear. You want to be comfortable too. I say bring heels for pictures. If you want to wear heels, bring them for pictures. Get your photo shoot. But when you're walking the show floor, just get something that works so you're comfortable because nothing has made me want to die quite like my feet in heels after 8 hours at a convention.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think, you know, just be safe. And if you want to book a photographer, make sure, you know, you're aware of their work. If you want to work with someone, and don't stop and don't be self-conscious about it because it's such a great form of self-expression and you should just keep doing it as long as it's bringing you joy and you're following your bliss.
Exactly. Follow that bliss. All right. I hate to segue, but we have the other half of the
Let's segue.
We have the other half of the Legend of Nora. See what
man.
See what I did there?
Oh, man. I see you. I got what you put down. I got it.
Legend of Nora. Let's talk about that pole half. What are some of the like things that you kind of discovered about yourself going into the journey of pole? Like I in my notes I split it between physical discoveries and then mental discoveries. Pick which one you want to start with first, and just tell us like first what got you started in pole, like what inspired you to try it, and then what did you discover along the way?
Oh man, so I pole in 2016, and that was right around the time that I was getting out of a very abusive relationship. So my relationship with my body and my sexuality was very tangled and very confused, and my femininity. My partner at the time, just very misogynistic. Anything remotely feminine was kind of shamed and punished, and I had a really hard time reconciling with that. And I considered myself to be a hyper feminine person. And so the fact that I was ashamed for these parts of myself that I didn't even realize I had was like very jarring. And around 2015, my best friend started pole dancing and she was posting her stuff on Instagram. So I started kind of looking into it, and I just was looking at these women that were 16 feet up in the air, holding on by nothing but the inner skin of their thigh, wearing a thong and pasties and spinning around. And I thought, that is the most beautiful creature I have ever seen in my life. And then I started pole dancing.
Boom.
Yeah.
As you went along, first off, how did it feel in those first few days? What were the first few times? What were they like? If you could ever like tell a person who was also starting their journey, like what was some of those first times like? What could you ever pass on to like the uber beginner that you learned the hard way?
Walking in the door is the hardest fucking step.
Really? Because,
it's so intimidating. I think, especially if you don't have any dance background like me, I've always kind of been an athlete my whole life, but I played field hockey and floor hockey. So I always kind of did like I did track and field for a while, cross country, but it was all kind of those like high impact, like running heavy sports. So I didn't really have any dance training. Maybe I did gymnastics when I was like little. So that was really intimidating to me because I was like, what do I know what I'm talking about? And then the fact that like when you get in there, it's just like a bunch of beautiful people wearing like no clothes and like 8-inch heels, and you're like, what have I gotten myself into? But I remember being so scared, and I remember the first studio I went into, the studio owner I was like, where do I go to like put my stuff down? Because I had to like walk through the studio space to get back to where the cubbies were. And she just looks at me and goes, do you want me to walk you back there? And I was like, yes. I was so scared. And it was so hard. I was so confused. I took like a beginner dance class, and at one point I was upside down and looking into my instructor's eyes, and I was like, oh, I am so backwards in this whole routine. And I have never been so sore as I was the next day after my first pole class. We did something in my first class that was kind of intense called a shoulder stand, a pole assisted shoulder stand. My whole shoulder, big bruise from the floor, just like repeating it, like popping up on my shoulder. Like it didn't hurt, but it was just that repetitive impact. I also bruise very easily. And I remember I couldn't even pull my pants up, man. I was like trying to get ready for work, and I was like,
oh God. Side tangent, do you by chance have a picture or a clip of that particular move?
I do. Somewhere on my phone. I'll send it to you.
Send it to me later. Catboy. B-roll. And
Catboy B-roll.
Catboy B-roll. I'm just reminding myself.
I got you.
This is the fun part about just recording. I can always just edit me talking to myself out.
That's a good idea. We kind of do that to like our producer too, or like when Ellen will pop away, I'll leave like Steve a little note. I'll be like, hi Steve, I miss you. Like so you can hear it when he's recording.
See, I'm still a one-man operation, so it's me and the Catboy. Me and the Catboy me. I gotta remind myself things, so I'm like, yes, okay, when Nora gives you the video or the picture of that move, B-roll it. Boom. Okay.
I got you.
And so, yeah. All right, perfect. So, like, as time went on, what were some of the things you discovered about yourself as you broke through that initial, oh wow, this was a new experience, new skill set I had to learn? Let's first go into psychology, but then I'll go into the skill set. So, like, what were some of the things you just discovered about yourself on the inside as time went on?
I think the biggest lesson I took away was that my body is not my enemy. My body is my friend, and I need to nurture her and support her so she can do these tricks I want her to do. I think when you're growing up as someone who's assigned female at birth, there's a lot of pressure on you to have a very specific look. And there's pressure across everyone to very much look a certain way. But as a femme person growing up, you're told very frequently your body is too shameful, you need to cover up. Something bad happened to you because of the way that you dressed yourself, the way you did your makeup, the way you do your hair. It was an invitation. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. You're less than human if you do that. Pole dance celebrates all of that. Pole dance is so rebellious in the fact that it looks at a society that says your feminine body is evil and like shameful and needs to be hidden. And it says, fuck you, and look what I can do with it. And it just I was like, I want to get better. I want to get stronger. So then I'm taking the flexibility classes. I'm taking the conditioning classes. I'm doing the work. I'm trying to eat what I need to build muscle and to get stronger. I'm, getting like a Tenzin seat, like a yoga strap, like a foam roller to do like body maintenance and prioritizing that, which like I didn't really have that motivation before pole.
We're going to get into the physicality in a bit because you have a very, very crazy hero's story, a hero's comeback journey that we'll get to in a second. But before we get to that, let me ask you this. With all that, as your body started to, and your mind has started to meet demand of this passion of yours, how has all that played into your confidence, your identity, things like your self-worth, just essentially your essence of self? How did that all shift? How did it all change throughout your pole journey?
I think it gave me such a sense of pride in myself, which was new to me. I had a lot of hobbies growing up, and I love cosplay, but I wouldn't say it's one of my passions, but I'm not a big crafter like some people we know. I do it for fun, and I make what I can, but it never was like fueled my soul creatively. It does, but not in the same way that I needed dance to do. And it gave me a sense of pride in my how I looked and how I carried myself, because I started to notice like muscle definition that I never had before. Like I started noticing my shoulders getting better, my biceps, and I was like, fuck yeah, I'm like seeing gains and I'm seeing results, and having the progression of a trick I couldn't do a week ago, and now I'm finally starting to get it. Oh, I finally got it through repetition and training and practice and discipline. It was so much, I felt so proud of myself, and I felt like I just want to do this all the time. And I never really had that before with something where I was like I played saxophone growing up. I didn't have the desire to practice 24/7. But with pole, it's like all I want to do is dance. All I want to do is keep training and getting better. It just fuels my soul. And as an adult, working in a job that isn't a creative job, you need that to really sustain you, and it does.
Yes, I'm putting a note down for at the 40-minute mark of this recording. If I may ask, another B-roll of tricks that the Capway will insert in, because the whole concept of like you're kind of nurturing your passion by building even more skill set, like for one trick you haven't seen before, being able to finally crack it. People don't realize like the skill set that's behind pole. It's just like, there is so much skill set. There is not only individual skills, but the way certain tricks flow into the other.
Yeah.
And how you express each move to convey a theme, a story.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's very much and what's cool about it too is, of course, there's not just one style. There's so many different styles. But because pole is kind of new as a sport, and it's not fully recognized as a sport in a lot of places, so there's like a lack of categorizing that,
Which
say,
is a
gymnastics
crime.
does.
It's literally vertical gymnastics.
It's misogyny. It's all misogyny
Right.
and the patriarchy, quite honestly. Because there was talk about it going into the Olympics, but I don't know what happened with that, or I don't know if that was just a rumor, but so it requires flexibility, dance skill, and a gymnastic skill for the aerial tricks, all while doing it in 8-inch heels, which are heavy, which are essentially ankle weights.
If they could go into the Olympics, I at least want it to be in X Games.
Oh, honestly, like, keep it out of the Olympics. Like, fuck the Olympics,
fuck
man.
the Olympics. Like,
yeah.
If we're still celebrating Tony Hawk's 900, we can only imagine the pole tricks that the next pole champion innovator will create, which will then be like, oh, that's the one move everyone around the world is going to practice.
Yeah, no, it's like that in the pole world too. You'll see someone throw some trick that's never been done before. And that's why a lot of pole tricks, you have like the Jasmine, Jamila, Juliet spin, the Marion Ember. They're named after titans of the pole industry.
Yes. And pole has their plethora of Tony Hawks, and we need...
Absolutely.
Maybe we went into a side tangent of it has to be X Games, but it is a niche, extreme, I don't want to say extreme sport, but a niche, heavily athletic sport, non-traditional sport that needs recognition. So
yeah, and it even X Games, but even still, when I started in 2016 and 2023, it's grown so much. It's really cool to see how it's getting a little bit more recognition, but it just, people often equate pole dancing to stripping, which it is. Pole dance comes from strippers. And the downside of that is that society hasn't caught up with, like, a lot of people are like, strippers are bad. And it's like, no, sex work and strippers are just people, and they're badass people just trying to make a buck to get through life. But because of the connotation of stripping and pole dance, people are like, oh, it's not that hard or whatever. Oh, it's not this. Oh, it's not this. And it's like, it's very disrespectful. And I do think a lot of that opinion is rooted in misogyny. A lot of pole dancers, there's a really toxic hashtag called not a stripper, which is so bad because we got this sport from strippers, from sex workers, from black strippers, black sex workers. And we need to expect that and pay homage to that. So, give money to your strippers, tip your sex workers, give sex workers work. And I just wanted to make sure I threw that in there, that pole dance comes from strippers. And that's a beautiful thing.
Fair enough. And that's the thing. It's like, how any sort of sex work, and just going off the tangent, they call it the oldest profession for a reason. And it's not because of what the direct occupation was. Yes, prostitution.
There's a demand for it.
There was a demand for it. And maybe
it's economics 101, baby.
It's economics. And it's the thing is, yes, we could say the job of prostitution back in the day, the cowboy age, was the oldest profession, but the sheer fact of sex work in whatever shape or form it comes in has been around because of the demand and need for it. And
we shouldn't shame these people. It's not a shameful thing. We need to decriminalize sex work. and not dehumanize sex workers, because I've heard stories of teachers becoming pole dancers, not even working at a club, just taking classes and posting their videos online and getting fired from their jobs.
Right.
And that's very bad. And I feel as if pole is so the opposite of that. It's so about acceptance and empowerment and loving your body and embracing what it can do for you. And expression of sexuality or not. A lot of pole dancers I know don't do a lot of sexy stuff. They do like flowy, almost acrobatic ballet aerial stuff. It's we get a little bit of everything. And I think putting it into a box and deeming that box as evil just because you don't understand it is very not okay. And I wish there was more outreach of people to understand this instead of just shame it, because it's a woman showing her body, which is primarily like what we think when we think pole dance.
Yeah. The problem usually comes from, and I don't want to throw formal education under the bus, but and I know we're starting to tangent off into inner politics. I knew we would, so let's ride. Let's ride the storm. Yep, let's go. Enter the storm. There's Rodham Cowboy, Rodham Cowgirl. There was a modern philosopher named Dan Coe. He always said traditional education system was to prepare people for traditional in-the-box jobs. Mm-hmm. That was true, and that's why a teacher getting demonized for pole, as sucky as it is, it's part of me was just not surprised, because here's one occupation trying to prepare people to be cogs in a corporate wheel. What would feminine or sexualized expression, where does that fit into the corporate cog that the formal education system was going to create? It didn't. Yeah. There was a huge clash, because it's like the old school formal education system that's still basically still around, but just overpriced out the ass. Different topic.
That's a whole other podcast, baby.
Right? It's designed to put you in a system, to put you another cog in somebody's corporate wheel, and hopefully you make a living off of it. So the ability to go that far outside the box is easily demonized. It's so easy to demonize, especially when sex work cannot be regulated, that heavily regulated. Sexual expression cannot be heavily regulated. People are having a hard time regulating it for the sheer fact of now we have spectrums of sexual preferences, spectrums of gender identity, spectrums of physical expression, and because you can't categorize it, you can't box it unless you become misogynistic to do so.
I would argue that a big part of this comes from kind of what I was saying before, is the demonization of feminine bodies and AFEB bodies, and how you are seen as less than human if you are a feminine person who shows too much skin. And how could this woman be a good woman and teach children if she's also dancing on the pole? That's where that comes from. It's so toxic, and it goes all the way to the top. Oh yeah, of patriarchy.
It honestly does, because it
really does. Yeah.
From what I've seen as a guy's perspective, from a male world, we would a stereotypical. I'll call him fuckboy. Let's just put it as simple as
five dudes flash before my eyes when you say fuckboy, and I'm like, huh? Got it. I'm with you.
We'll get even more into that later. But let's go stereotypical fuckboy. Let's just go with an Andrew Tate follower for ease of imagination.
Okay, so, I'm mad. I'm there.
Okay, so we have a fuckboy. You are correct. They see the sexual femme as less than human, because they're so taught that ooh, it's a forbidden fruit. A woman should be like this. This is the type of woman that is going to be presented to you, that you have a selection to marry. Oh my
sexual
God.
Ownership. Yeah, it's all about sexual ownership over women.
So there's a sexual ownership, and then there is a sexual deviance of the sex worker or the pole dancer or the person with a bit more skin showing hobby. Oh, it's so forbidden fruit. I can't tell somebody that I follow that pole dancer on Instagram, buy a different sex worker's OnlyFans. I can't tell them I watch porn. Because it's
so stupid.
It's the ownership.
It's it's
ownership of the prim and proper, while consuming what they think is a less than human person for expressing sexuality, and maybe it's the exchange of money that blurs the line there. And I can't say yes or no, and I can't say right or wrong. You're a much better expert at that than I am. But I could see a guy's brain just a fuckboy's brain get scrambled there and they lose their sense of humanity, let's just say.
There's a phrase in the sex work industry, and you might have heard me say this before, but it's people love to jerk off with one hand and point with the other.
Yes.
And
sorry, I didn't mean to point.
yeah, and it's so true because we as a society look down on sex so heavily, and I feel like the norm is to shame people, and you save yourself for marriage for that one person. When we're being taught sexuality in school, young girls are compared to, a bunch of chewed gum and dehumanized that way. Because, if you have a lot of sex before marriage, then you are like compared to this dirty water and all that. But we're taught that at such a young age. Or we're looking at a girl who, is maybe wearing a crop top and she's a little bit younger. And we're like, oh, she's fast, she's easy because of the way she dresses. Honestly, we talk about rape culture. You were asking for it because you were wearing that. It all kind of runs together.
That hurts my soul when you say that. Like, I can't believe there's actually a thing called rape culture. I can't believe that exists. I hate the fact that it exists. That hurts.
I know. I mean, it's all these things you kind of have to learn to stay safe, especially just, being a feminine presenting person. It's just... You gotta know what they're up to and what people are planning in order to keep yourself safe. But that's like where that comes from, and like I even had this internalized misogyny, and it was so strong before pole dance, and that's why I would kind of, when I would cosplay at a young age, like really kind of try to cover up like my butt or whatever, because I just felt so ashamed of my body because I thought that my body was something shameful, something I should be ashamed of. Pole dance taught me the complete fucking opposite, and like I'm so much happier this way, and I have so much more self-love this way.
Exactly. I'm gonna pause myself for 1 second to reset cam.
I'll get and take a sip of my LaCroix.
Get the sip of the LaCroix. It's water break. It's okay. I just had to make sure reset cam. You were on fire, and I'm like, my camera blurred, but I don't want her to stop.
Sorry. I was like, oh no, the camera blurred, but I'm
go. And this is the type of energy, like, let's say if this was like a sitcom that was filmed in a live audience, this is the type of energy it would be. It was just like, here we go.
But my cats are like bopping around down here. You might hear them meow, but they're little drama queens.
Comes with the territory. It's all good. Man, I don't want to veer from that. I know we had the next topic to go over, but damn. Yeah, all about that self-worth, all about knowing not only your own sexual energy, but how to protect it in a world that can be very exploitative. From what I've seen.
Yeah. Yes.
How before you get into your hero story, how would you describe ways you have not only that we talked a lot about your expression of your own sexual energy. How have you protected it?
Oh, I think by surrounding myself with a community of people that uplift me, I think is really important. And I think that I feed into that energy, and as a result, I uplift them. And it helps. And it helps me recognize my self-worth when you are only surrounding yourself with people who want the best for you. Because I think it's really easy for us to get into a cycle of self-loathing. If we're having a bad body day, if our workout didn't go the way we wanted, if we try to land this trick and it didn't go, and you're like, I'm the worst person in the world, I want to die, I hate everything. And then you have a person who's like, shut the fuck up, you are great, you're beautiful, you're amazing. And then, yeah, you're right. Like, I just had to get down on myself, and that's okay. It's okay to get down on ourselves sometimes, and it's totally normal. But I think I've done so much work through pole dance and through self-acceptance that in order to protect it, sometimes it helps having someone nudge you in the right direction and knowing your self-worth and like not letting people that are going to affect that get anywhere near you. And setting boundaries for people who are going to like affect that bliss and tear down that peace. It's just so not worth it.
Yeah. On that one point, I remembered a saying somebody made, and I don't know the author, but they said, imagine a bottle of water. You go to a gas station, that bottle of water is worth $1. You go to a gym, that bottle of water is worth $3. You go to a weekend music festival, and that bottle of water is fucking $10. The water's the same, but sometimes the value, the worth, is dependent on the environment you put it in.
It helps. It honestly, you are a bottle of festival water. You are top dollar.
Yes.
You are airport water. You are
Yes.
Fiji at the airport. You are a JFK Fiji. I think that's so funny, but it's true. Actually, I think it's good to build healthy relationships with people that are going to stand by your side, that want the best for you, that believe in you and trust you and know you as a person. And surround yourself with that, because that'll help you look inward. Like in my community of friends, like we don't even let ourselves talk bad about each other. You know, it's if someone needs to vent about a feeling they're feeling, they say, I just need a couple minutes to vent about this. And then we let them, because again, it's totally valid and normal to feel the way you feel and get that off your chest. But what's important is coming back from that. And sometimes we all need help with that. And I think it's really important to surround yourself with people who want the same for you that you do.
Yeah. That's awesome. I think they talk about like some like cognitive behavioral therapy where they validate the emotion and then empower the person to the response. It's like, okay, this is the way you feel.
Yes.
Let's express the way you feel, see how you feel. Now let's sensibly do something about it, because if you don't express what you're feeling or why you're feeling it, then the response gets controlled. You don't control the response, the emotion controls you and dictates your response.
Perfectly said. That's exactly right. Exactly right.
Yeah. Thank you for watching part 1 of our conversation. Stay tuned next week for part 2, where we talk about recovering from her spinal surgery, returning to pole dance, and talking about the kind of weird things she comes across in DMs. Yeah, she has a whole podcast about that. But in the meantime, if you'd like to talk about awesomeness community, especially cosplay, look to the video over here with our talk with Starfall Cosplay. And yeah, we'll talk to you soon. See you then.